Yo, what's going on YouTube? It's your boy Light back with another YouTube video, and in today's video we're gonna be doing uh X-Men versus Avengers, or Avengers versus X-Men, sorry, review here on the channel. So yeah, Avengers versus X-Men was 12, technically 12 issue series. I mean, it was a bit more issues, but technically they weren't really as issues. They're like point 0.5 and stuff like that. It's of stuff that came in between and stuff like that. So, yeah, technically, I'll just say it's a 12 issue series uh, that came out back in 2012. So, yeah, it was written by a bunch of different people, and the artist was a bunch of different people as well. Written by Brian Michael Bendis, Matt Fraction, Jason Aaron, Ed Brubaker, Jonathan Hickman. And the artist is done by John Romita Jr., Oliver Coppel, and Adam Kubert. So a bunch of different artists and writers there. We could definitely see that. Uh, yeah, again, and this takes place right after the events of, I believe, House of M. So like mutants are kind of low a little bit here, and definitely this had some major implications on the rest of like the DC. I mean, not the DC universe. Sorry about that. The Marvel universe in terms of the comic wise during this time. Uh, anyways, Avengers vs. X-Men was definitely a really cool comic. Really enjoyed it. Personally, I think it should have been called like the War for Mutant Kind or something, because that could have been a much cooler title. Of course, Avengers vs. X-Men is definitely an interesting title and everything. I just think maybe could have been like a subtitle, could be like War for Mutants or something like that, just because in this they're necessarily fighting for mutants basically. So, yeah, anyways, let's get into it. So, like I just said, this book basically takes place after House of M. So mutants are kind of scarce here. There's still the original X-Men here, like Cyclops, Colossus, Magic, Gambit. All those characters are still here. Rogue, all of them are still there, with a few different tweaks, of course. Like Professor X isn't really around them. Wolverine's kind of around the X-Men a lot. He's not really known to be with the X-Men. Uh, Beast is kind of with Avengers on it, but at the same time, he doesn't really choose to fight the X Men at the same time. He's mainly in space and stuff trying to delay the Phoenix Force. So I wouldn't say he's really on the Avengers side. Professor X, he's kind of like, he's not even involved in this really. So, yeah, anyways, there's a bunch of characters there. Let's start off with what they're fighting for. So, in, of course, House of M, they erased, Wanda basically erased all the mutants and everything, and then they got brought back after the aftermath of the event, and then they ended up finding a child named Hope, who basically is known as like the Newton Messiah, basically, and she's basically supposed to get the Phoenix Force, which, if you haven't realized, is a pretty bad thing in terms of the fact that it corrupted Jean Grey and killed her. So that's kind of what this is about too. Uh, Again, Jean Grey is dead in this too. I forgot to say that. I'm pretty sure she remains dead for most of the time. So yeah, she's dead in this too. I forgot to say that. So that has a kind of implications on it too. And basically, the Avengers and the X-Men battle it out because the two groups want something different with this. Like for example, the Avengers think that she should be basically, she shouldn't get the Phoenix Force. She shouldn't really be or anything around that. They should destroy the Phoenix Force basically. And then the X Men are all like, uh, they think that she should get it and just like destiny is destiny basically. And I mean, she is hope for the kind. And something to really note as well is the X Men are very protective over her, especially Cyclops. He's very protective over her in this comic, which is really interesting at the same time. So it's interesting to see these like different characters act a little different than usually what we see. Just seeing as though like Cyclops acts a way different. Well, it's not even without the Phoenix Force too. He acts much more different. But anyways, let's get into it quickly. So for most of the comic, it's mostly just like the Avengers versus X-Men fighting, and then we end up finding something shocking, which is that the Phoenix Force gets divided into five, and we end up seeing five members here. We end up seeing Cyclops, Emma Frost, Colossus, Magic, and Namor all get the Phoenix Force in them. So they become the Phoenix Five, and basically they just fight the Avengers the whole time. There's a bunch of death too, honestly. Actually, in the end, Cyclops goes mad with power because the Phoenix Force is basically corrupting them, and he goes mad with power, and like the rest of the X-Men that aren't affected with the Phoenix Force, who see the flaw, end up leaving and joining up with the Avengers, and then they all plan on taking down Cyclops, that who's now gone mad with power, and basically, uh, I think he kills Emma Frost and like all the other Phoenix Four. I don't know if they're necessarily dead, but I mean he does consume them. So that happens, and he ends up killing Charles Xavier too, which was interesting to see as well. Yeah, and he could walk because seeing as though I'm pretty sure some of his power was taken away and stuff like that. So I'm pretty sure he's able to walk in this. Uh, yeah, and then that's pretty basically what happens. And then Cyclops ends up getting the Phoenix Force out of him, and it goes into Hope instead. And she kind of goes crazy a little bit, and then Cyclops gets arrested, and yeah. Uh, yeah, I'm not too sure what the event after this is, but definitely I might check it out just to see what's going on with the X-Men and everything. Uh, yeah. Let's just quickly to give my thoughts on this. Now, I thought this was a pretty well crafted comic here. Definitely has definitely like some interesting stuff in the sense of like which side do you kind of pick. I mean, it gets more clear towards the end. Like you would pick the Avengers just because Cyclops has gone insane, basically. But I mean, at the start, especially, uh, I could bet you when this originally came out back in 2012, like the first few issues, definitely there were probably people who were very divided on this, and you could definitely see the stuff that's going to go down with it. Especially in the sense it kind of showcases the true spirit of the Avengers in the sense that honestly, they don't really care too much for mutants or anything like that, and that's always a problem with the mutants. Is like an underlying theme in their comics and everything is like humans don't really care about mutants and they don't care what happens to them. So this is kind of evident in the sense that that happens too. Again, it was very divided at first. I felt like it was a bit. Personally, I was more so voting for the X Men to win at the start. I thought they much had more valid of a reason. Honestly, you could see definitely that was happening. It just seems like the Avengers were just invading them and just like attacking them. Uh, but then at the closer to the end, we ended up seeing, of course, the Phoenix Four thing, and then it's just like, yeah, Avengers should probably win this. Yeah, so that happened, which was pretty interesting. Oh yeah, and actually the other Phoenix Five basically they survived, but I'm not too sure what happened to them. Uh, there's probably a comic detailing what happened to them, but I forgot to mention this, but actually at the end, Captain America's looking for the rest of them to basically arrest them, and Cyclops is like, I accept full responsibility over this and everything. So that was interesting to see as well. Like Cyborg I mean, Cyclops refused, didn't refuse, I mean, accepted all the blame and everything and went back to his old self, which is really cool and everything. Definitely this is very interesting, and I'm seriously curious of what the aftermath was of this. Obviously, the aftermath's going to be big about this because seeing as though these characters are now probably fragile relationships, like the X-Men. Uh, Definitely don't want to be working with the Avengers really that much anymore. I mean, maybe so some of the characters, but at the same time, I can 100% think that maybe like, uh, especially characters like Iceman and stuff like that knew this was like the Phoenix Force and whatnot, and not really too much Cyclops, were probably gonna get mad that Avengers are doing this and everything. Same with like personally, if I were the X Men, I would not really like Wolverine too much because at the same time Wolverine just chose the X Men. I mean the Avengers over the X Men. Not too sure why, but I mean I guess it's his kind of choice. He just chose to join up with the Avengers for some reason. But yeah, same with Quicksilver and Wanda or Scarlet Witch in a sense. Yeah, that's a bit different, and we can even see that in the aftermath of House of M. Scarlet Witch is kind of like at the odds of like the Avengers and stuff. They don't really like her too much. Most of the characters don't really like her, so that's one thing as well. Like Vision especially, does like he doesn't like her at all. So that was interesting to see as well. But I mean, yeah, I mean this comic was pretty interesting, very clever, like writing and everything like that. I did enjoy it a lot. It did have a lot of good writing and stuff like that. But anyways, that's pretty much it. In terms of rating, I would give this an easy 9 out of 10. Definitely really interesting. But anyways, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next video. Peace.